Hello, guys. Hope you're doing well. This is TJ, and you're listening to Beyond the Ring podcast. And this is my review and thoughts on A&E's new biography on the Ultimate Warrior. So, this biography was gonna come out this week, as we know. Is It's one of the solution by A&E, and another solution which we are gonna get is by Dark Side of the Ring, which fans are talking about, how much fans are actually eager to see how much different it is from A&E. Now A&E biography is out, and A&E biography, some liked it, some are saying that they actually WWE actually sugar coated it, because as we know WWE has fair share of contribution in this, because they are in consultation with WWE and association kind of thing. This comes out on WWE Network, not like the Dark Side of the Ring, which comes out on Vice actually. So pretty different, and we know Dark Side of the Ring, how accomplished that series is, and that's going still a very great documentaries they are putting upon, some real life, some truth stories we have ever never listened about, have never ever listened about. So that's great. So A&E's versions of biography, as we see Booker T and Shawn Michaels, are kind of narration which we already know. Like Shawn Michaels, we know that. Booker T, it was also kind of we are knowing about that. But if you search about various articles, Wikipedia and all, you can get to 60, 50, 70% all things. But I will say not like copy of the articles and all. There were some exclusive things as well, which WWE possesses and which WWE has. So that's the specialty of A&E, and it's an entertaining thing too. It's an entertaining as well. But in case of Dark Side of the Ring, it's entertaining. But I mean, I don't have any problem watching it. But some viewers are viewer discretion is advised in that, because there is many uh, contents which are not should be seen by any children or something, because of the terms and the language and the words that are, and the topic that they are discussed, like we actually accept, some culture actually accepts as a taboo. So that's there, which is not kind of the version of A&E, which is kind of family friendly, you can say, kind of a normal documentary version. So for me this was a mixed feeling, because documentary not like of Shawn Michaels, or not kind of Booker T as well. For me, till now Booker T is my favorite, and Shawn Michaels as well was very good as well. But Booker T was very good. That I think that was the first documentary they had. So that out of the way, we I'm not bragging about a lot of the things. I would get into the review then. So before getting into that, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff that supports me, that makes me motivated to do these things. And I do these things because I like this actually. That's why I'm doing. So please be sure to like, and hit that bell icon as well, with that if I get into the new video, you will get the notification as well for that. So we start off the review then. So the biography actually started off with Vince McMahon actually advising Warrior for cutting the promos, helping with how to cut the promo, and then we saw his daughter saying that his father actually said embodies, and he actually also taught us only thing that live strong, be bold, and brave in whatever you do, and that was the mantra of Jim Helwig, aka Ultimate Warrior. Jim Helwig was his real name, if you don't know, and he was actually born in Crossfordville, Indiana. He was the oldest of five children, and this place was a rural kind of place, and at that time the population of this place was around 18,000, and his father actually left when he was 12 years old, and that actually was put a dent on his mind so much that he was shifting on to insecurity. He had that trust issues. He was not confident to do that. You could understand what I am saying. That was the kind of phase that he was getting on, because if you know, your father is called, his father was not died. His father is left the family actually, and his mother was raising five children. So you could think about that scenario, how it would be like. and that was a kind of the phase that Warrior was going from. And Warrior was actually always had that. All that always had that in his mind that I can't do anything like a kind of so, but he had that motivation that I should do. I want to be the one who actually uh, remember, who actually the person, the fans, the persons and all surrounding me should remember me, and the city should be remembering me, one of the person that I am. So that thing was in his mind. So Helvig, into this professional career, actually in his career actually, he was an his studies and all, they didn't get into that aspect. They actually got into the his sports career which he was getting into. And he was an kind of a football player. He was a professional football player getting into, and his coach actually said that he was an undersized football player, where you see big guys, 230, 260 pound guys, and he was kind of 120, 5'7" kind of height was there. And his body was not kind of kind of that we see in the footballers actually. And during his senior year actually, Helvig was fascinated with bodybuilding. He actually come across bodybuilding and actually started to gain knowledge about that by picking up the magazines and all. And while that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you know, is one of the biggest star of Hollywood. He was also into the bodybuilding as well, and he actually made a name as well. So Jim Helvig was going into bodybuilding career. He was to want to represent Mr. Many titles. I don't remember what all titles they were. So he wanted to start his career in uh, bodybuilding. So he moved on to Georgia, and that was rewarding for Helvig, because after high school and some college, Helvig actually moved to Georgia to pursue the career in bodybuilding. While there, he was called upon. He was called upon someone. I don't remember his name actually. He was called upon someone to join the. It was Gold's Gym, yeah. It was Gold's Gym where this was located in Georgia. So Georgia was the place where he started training for, and to begin that career in bodybuilding. And this was a place he actually won Mr. Georgia tournament. He actually trained for from 1975 to some type of 1983, 85 or something. And in 1985 or something, he actually won this thing. And he was grinding and grinding and grinding. And his friends actually also said that he used to train a lot, and he wanted to become a bodybuilder. That was in his blood, and he wanted to get into that magazine, as his friends were saying. So he was determined to do that. And this was a place where he happened to met his first wife while in Georgia. And after Georgia, Jim Halvig actually was gone to California. Helvig moved to California because he felt that actually he wasn't getting that exposure kind out of Georgia area at that time. Actually, California was the hub of bodybuilding, and this was the place where Arnold and all were trained. And this was the perfect place for anyone to be a successful and a very known bodybuilder, as the documentary states. And while in California, Warrior actually met actually Rick Bassman, who thought that Helvig would be a very good addition in professional wrestling because he had that physique. Because those were the time where big guys were were being noticed and to be taken over, to that eyeball catching, to be taken over into the professional wrestling business. And Helvig also met there Steve Borden, which you know by Sting, better known as Sting. And they two actually become part of a group, and he was also kind of a bodybuilding guy as well. And his their size were kind of matching, man. If you don't see the version of Sting now, you see the 1970 and 80 version of Sting, you would recognize that. So they were very looking like very connected, and they were very good looking each other. And they actually became part of a group of bodybuilders that Bassman trained for the sport actually. And then, so while they were training in the gym and they were doing their own thing in that bodybuilding, Jerry Jarrett actually asks that how about you can have these boys work for me actually. So Jerry Jarrett actually took look four guys, and two of the guys were, as I said, Sting and Jim Helvig, aka Ultimate Warrior. So they actually, Jerry Jarrett actually decided to take chance on the first two men, which was Sting and Jim Helvig, which was Ultimate Warrior. So, but Jarrett only wanted Helvig and Borden actually. So the two men became known as the Freedom Fighters as a tag team. They were working. Helvig and Borden became kind of a Justice and Flash, respectively. Helvig turned to wrestling because he wasn't making enough of money in bodybuilding. So he wanted to make money, fame. That was the main point that he was getting into to gain that confidence as well. So the with confidence you get fame and money as well if you get into the right thing. So that was the point. They wanted to break it out. They want to be known by someone in by many fans actually. So that was their goal. And I don't say about that. I don't say anything about that because that's a wish for everyone who whatever they does in the any profession. They wanted to be have the fame, they wanted to have that money and all the things that comes around. And the freedom fighters didn't work in the south. The freedom fighters had trouble getting over the fans as they were not good in wrestling because they are professional bodybuilders. They are not professional wrestlers, and they were muscle good, and but they were untrained. As a result, freedom fighters then moved on to UWF, which was under if you know Universal Wrestling Federation, which was promoted by Bill Watts. And they were and they there were there they became the Blade Runners, and they were heel there, and they were renamed as Rock and Sting, and their gimmick was a knockoff kind of Road Warriors. But a few months after arriving in the UWF, though they entered into a dispute with Bill Watts over money actually. As a result of that issue, Helvig decided to leave the UWF while Sting stayed behind because there was an issue. I would say I would clear upon that. Sting actually was called upon Bill Watts to work. I think to work a match, and he called Jim Helvig, but Jim Helvig was not available for some other reason. He was not able to find him, so he thought about that I should go and work there. And while Jim Helvig returned, and he asked, "What the hell are you doing? We are supposed to do the thing. Two of us are supposed to do all the things." And he was kind of pissed about that. So Sting actually kind of try to understand him what was the problem, but he was not that nature. So this was kind of his psyche, that he had that trust issue, and he had that he trusted didn't trust many peoples. He trusts few peoples, and he was very loyal to that few peoples. If they have if they if they do good things and do good to him actually, and talk to him nicely. And that was his psyche there. And he decided to leave that. Hennes Sting said that my relationship with Ultimate Warrior was kind of not good after that, and he actually left the UWF. And Sting actually stayed there and continued to work for Watts. And then we turned this Ultimate Warrior biography, and then we turned on to Helvig Ultimate Warrior. And then he ventured to Texas area and began performing as a warrior. And they came about the name as the Dingo Warrior for World Class Championship Wrestling, WCCW, if you know, in 19 late 1990s or something. So as a member of the WCCW creative team, Helvig was being described as an intense, like a warrior gimmick. Because of this warrior become part of this new character name. The name Dingo came from someone walking a kind of a little dog. That was kind of his name that came from. So the creative team members liked them, and they decided upon that. And Andre the Giant agreed to put over Ultimate Warrior after that. According to the legend Andre Giant, he says that he did not do anything in the wrestling ring that he didn't want to do. The purpose Ultimate Warriors feud with Andre was to make Warrior look like Hulk Hogan's equal. So Andre the Giant versus Ultimate Warrior was the first breakthrough for Ultimate Warrior, and Andre the Giant was interested in onto him, and he wanted to put over Ultimate Warrior. So that's a very big accomplishment for Ultimate Warrior. For Andre the Giant to do. He was one of the biggest superstar in looks as well as in his name as well, close to Hulk Hogan as well. But Hulk Hogan was Andre the Giant was not a fan favorite. Hulk Hogan was a fan favorite. Hulk Hogan was wrestling at 80s and early 90s, I would say. After that, new guy Shawn Michaels and all started to came up, and Ultimate Warrior's feud with Andre was to make Warrior look like a legitimate opponent like Hulk Hogan, because they thought that he was equal to Hulk Hogan. Since actually Hogan actually had slammed that infamous slam, we still see in the beginning of the every show that we see, that WWE vignette that we see in the beginning. So that was a big accomplishment that time, to slam Andre the Giant. And after we as Peter Roseman was saying, after you slam Andre the Giant, there's no no thing topping of other than facing Hulk Hogan, because he was the top of that. Because before, Hulk Hogan was the only one who did that actually, and the Ultimate Warrior did that, and that makes Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior on the same level. So that was the angle that they were trying to play out, and that played out very well, because they were one of the larger than life roles, two of them, Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior was very big was getting very big at that time, and since Hogan had slammed Andre, and Giant felt that Warrior should also, and that made that connection. So, and they put over the greatest match of his career at WrestleMania 6, Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior, and this was for both championship, while Ultimate Warrior was Intercontinental Champion. Hulk Hogan was the WWF Champion. Ultimate Warrior happened to be defeat Honky Tonk Man, which he in 2 minutes or something, and he actually got the Intercontinental Champion from there. And they were both champions, as we are seeing. Warrior actually was very emotional over the idea that they put upon, because he was hanging out with the top man in the WWF, and the next day, Warrior wondered where his career was going. But Vince McMahon was not happy with Warrior's title reign, because Vince McMahon, as you know, Warrior, if you would have watched it, Warrior defeated Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6 to win both Intercontinental Championship and WWF Championship. Hulk Hogan didn't have any problem, as we see, didn't touch upon, I don't know, or did have any problem, I don't know, but he didn't have any problem. But Vince McMahon was not happy after his going into his title reign. Actually, he actually had both champions for 300 days or something, and they, less than a year after winning the title, WWF title, Warrior dropped the title to Sergeant Slaughter, and then they were planning to get it back to Hogan as well in WrestleMania 7 or so, I think so, in that main event. So at the same time, Warrior was not going well in his family stuff as well, because Vince McMahon was not happy because of he was over, but the challenges that they were, but that was not good. We saw Undertaker burying Ultimate Warrior, because new stars were coming up, and Ultimate Warrior's time was gonna kind of coming up, and Vince McMahon didn't kind of accept his mistake and all, and he was not happy, because it's ultimately your booking, man. It's ultimately you are booking, so you could have done something about his career, in my opinion. So this was that. So Vince McMahon was not happy with the reign, so he lost on to Sergeant Slaughter, and Sergeant Slaughter lost to Hogan. At the same time, he had that family stuff going on. The Warriors marriage was falling apart, and his wife was first wife actually was filing divorce, because they didn't touch upon that much, because he didn't go to home that much. He didn't visited the wife, and once a moment, her wife actually his wife actually, first wife actually, thought about that he is having any relationship with anyone. They didn't touch upon that much, but I happened to watch a Dark Side of the Ring extended a clip or something where they were stating it. So we will stating it detail manner. So we'll get into that in that biography. That would be interesting to see that as well. What was there, and then we saw an incident that occur where a child actually said that he would destroy the Ultimate Warrior. Walking through an airport in sunglass and without his face paint, the Ultimate Warrior encountered actually a child who asked if Helvig was actually the character in question. Helvig blew the child off, upsetting him. Helvig's actions were reported to McMahon, and thus the Ultimate Warrior was actually ordered to record a heartfelt apology. And this taped thing was actually also shown, and he was very pissed, and he was not interested to do, and he was saying, I'm going up 2 days after this, and you're saying that to do this and all. And Vince McMahon kind of tries to calm him down. This is the work. This is the work you should do. You should do. Uh, yeah, this is the mistake by Ultimate Warrior. So it's a company. So company decides what to do with their talent. So he should do that. So McMahon explained to the Warrior that the video was a work. From there, he was able to complete the video. Following this incident, actually, Warrior had that feeling that as he beat Hulk Hogan, he had that in his mind that he should be paid as same as Hogan. So Warrior also didn't come to SummerSlam 91, which he was booked upon. He's one of the biggest stars there. So he wrote a letter to Vince McMahon saying that I want 5 lakh dollar or something. And these demands and all, as they states in a letter that they were showing. So post that he would not come if these demands are not met. Vince McMahon kind of nodded to it that we would come into an agreement. But Warrior actually seemed to refuse to work the SummerSlam 19 if they didn't know. So Vince McMahon had no choice. Uh, Unless he was paid 500K. So they had that compromise thing, and he actually worked SummerSlam 1991. And after that, there was an angle where he actually was had that chair in the match actually, and was coming back to the dressing room actually. And after that, his point was over, his angle was over, and he actually met upon Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon gives him the suspend letter for 90 days for it's very wrong, man. You should have said that if you could not have done that. But Vince McMahon was a was a smart guy, because he wanted to bring upon Ultimate Warrior, the biggest star at that time in SummerSlam 1991, because all the promotions and all already been done. So he cannot suffer that. That's why he played out at that. And at the prior to the SummerSlam 1991 match, McMahon actually tells Sergeant Slaughter that he is demanding this much money, and Hulk Hogan actually come to his room, and Hulk Hogan says to Sergeant Slaughter, "You just use it." Breaks his leg, and I would be doing that and all. And Vince McMahon say, no, 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 don't do that, because I don't want to have any lawsuit or something. So McMahon actually said that was also laid upon that. And he was Hogan Warrior. He stated in the Vince McMahon stated in his letter that Warrior was a legend, Hogan was, or rather Warrior was not in the level of Hogan, as he says. And that was kind of disrespecting kind of letter that he had. You are not in the level of Hogan. You are not. As you think, you are the legend in your mind, and that actually put a very striking on his heart. And he already was suspended 90 days, and then we saw he returned in 1992. The WWF was also in the midst of trouble, because steroid was legal till that day. but till back then in 1992. But after that, it kind of started to shift, and there were some trials and all, some legal stuff that were going on with WWF superstar using steroid and all. And Jim Helwig was also one of them, because every time they had their drug test, he actually had something or the other new things that he was taking. So that was getting, he was also taking anxiety pills, performance enhancing drugs and all the stuff that they didn't push upon that much like Dark Side of the Ring, but they just touched upon that thing. And he failed the drug test, and he was actually forced to leave because of that. This was a case of Ultimate Warrior. This was the own destruction of Ultimate Warrior. The drugs is not the case of WWF, because the reason he was taking steroids was because he was very laid out, and he was very sad of his personal life. He was not doing good, and he was in that depression kind of mode, and he wanted to have that weight. And if he didn't eat that pills and all the drugs and all, he would have been not in the shape that he says. So that was the reason he actually ate the drugs and all, and he actually eventually got suspended. But when Ultimate Warrior, he was disappeared from the pro wrestling scene. In 1996, he moves on to Arizona, and he opens a wrestling school. And eventually, that was not the place that he wanted to be, because he was training and all, training the new guys, new children, but new superstars. But he didn't want to do that, because he was not getting that much name and all that he wanted to. So Ultimate Warrior eventually re-signed with WWF in the hopes that um, they should be giving something that he didn't have, that would help his the sales of his new comic book that was out that time. And during his return, Warrior's father passed away, and due to this, he actually this he is one of the guy, because he's very affected guy, because whatever happens to anything, he was so affected into his life that he cannot do anything. He was very controlled like that. He actually missed the shows, and Vince McMahon actually happened to say that his father, it's his father, but his father is out, like didn't was not there in his childhood, and he's grieving upon him, grieving his father. And it's not good to miss a show or something. I don't see it as a thing, because if your father is not spoken to you in 10 years and you are grieving upon him, I don't agree with Vince McMahon. It's his father, Vince McMahon. It's his father. Even though anything happens, it's his father, because you cannot forget your father, even if you do anything. There would be some guys that would be one in a two or a million, but that's not a correct statement to say, because he did miss shows that was not good. He did miss shows, but that father passing away, that this is my view. I'm not saying that to focus upon the personal life than the business that he was doing, because he should have, but this was not called upon. His father passed away, so he was broke upon. So this was not called upon. You should understand that. And the fact that he's thinking about his father, it's a good humanity behavior. It's not bad. And Vince McMahon saying that it's kind of including in the family thing, because Vince McMahon was very attached with Ultimate Warrior, because Ultimate Warrior didn't have father. So Ultimate Warrior looked upon him, Vince McMahon, as a father figure, kind of a father figure. And he used to go a lot, actually a lot more than others, to his home. And they used to and his wife used to Vince McMahon's wife used to cook food and all. And Shane McMahon as well, he shared upon some memories as well in that. So this was the thing. So I don't support that, but it is what it is. Vince McMahon point is also correct when we see. So that's an arguable statement on all, which can be rant about for many hours. So the Ultimate Warriors. WCW run which he had. He actually had WCW run, but they didn't touch upon on that anything. So this was a typical WWE stuff. And even though WWE didn't consult any biography for this, they did know that they want to make WWE happy to get that all the things that they want. So even though they say that we had no control, that's their man. We cannot say that because. There's no point not talking about WCW. You didn't talk about that. So Ultimate Warrior was a reasonably kind of a his run was reasonable in champion WCW actually. And this during this run, Hogan was able to even scale with a Warrior by gaining a pinfall victory in what was regarded as one of the worst matches ever staged. However, A&E chose to omit this period of Warrior's career that he had in WCW, and this I didn't got this thing this point of sentence I didn't. Seen upon in any moment in this documentary. I just happened to read upon. I just noted that, and I'm just reading that. So Warrior become a very controversial figure upon about that because several years after his run in WCW, Warrior then Ultimate Warrior, he officially changed his name into Warrior, and he actually became a blogger after that and a public speaker. And the views that Warrior spoke and wrote during the that period caused the fans to very raised upon and have that negative light on him. And allegedly WWE's self-destruction was out at that point of time, kind of in 2005 or something, because the remarks that he was making in that documentary, I can't speak about that because it was so bad that we cannot think about that. It's Ultimate Warrior the Jim Helvig is talking upon, because even though it's two man, it's the only one man who is portraying thing. And uh, and that's and that's the thing. And that was the very baddest moment, that negative thing that Warrior had in his career. So Warrior career kind of was up, and then he down goes into the mud actually. That was the point, because he has his own self destruction that he made, I would say that. This is not the only company WWF complaints and all, the drugs and all, and he getting into the blogging, and that is good. But getting into this remarks and all, writing this all, that's not good. And the WWE is a self-destruction DVD of Ultimate Warrior, and that was also very bad negative light for him. It was all the things that he had done and all the thoughts, negative thoughts, and all the fears that had Ultimate Warrior. Ric Flair was saying Ric Flair was saying he should not have come to this business. He was not to be a professional wrestling business. If you know, he's from the bodybuilding industry. That's why they are telling. And many remarks were told by uh, many wrestlers, many peers of that time, and Hulk Hogan as well was saying that tape stuff was not good. So he was at the bad range that time. And he happened to lawsuit as well, but they didn't show that. So there was a lot of omitting here, the WCW and this as well, and many as well I don't know about. And then he moved on to Santa Fe, and this was the best thing that was going to happen, because his second wife was gonna met, because his second wife came to him actually, and they had a discussion. And Helvig says that if you want to discuss with me, you want to marry me. And she just said, I would not date you. We'd have to. And after 2 weeks or something, they married. And the mood that allowed him to have a different environment away from people who were jealous of him, trying to destroy his career, and was getting into the good moments of his life. And then we got to the moments where in 20 before the Hall of Fame that he had in 2014, he actually gone upon into stand-up comedy and stuff. Lot of guys, man, lot of wrestlers are gone to stand-up comedy and all. If you saw, Roddy Piper had gone. I think no, Booker T and Shawn Michaels. Yeah, Booker T had gone. A lot of new, a lot of all guys. go to that, because that's a good, they wanted to connect with fans, and that's very good to do that. He gone to that as well. So there was I actually forgot about it, his speech and all in the University of Connecticut. He did, he started off with good things, motivational thing, but then he got to derogatory remarks. That same remarks and all he actually wrote upon the website. I don't want to read upon that, because it's not good to say in this video, because maybe YouTube would be blocking my video or something. I don't know, I'm just starting off, I don't know. So I'm not, if you want that, you just wanted to search it and you will get it. So then we fast forward to WWE Hall of Fame, where Vince McMahon actually calls upon Ultimate Warrior, and they actually reconcile each other, and they have their differences aside. Vince McMahon says that let's bury the hatchet that we had and just move on. And he actually moved on. Ultimate Warrior is kind of a tough guy to move on, because he's very kind of overthinking kind of guy, and that's led to his own destruction, I would think so. And that's the thing that he faced. And his career should have gone well if he had paid attention in his own things, and would have just like, if you see, Shawn Michaels turned around his drug career into a greatest wrestling career after that in 2002, where he was going down. He didn't had a self-realization. He was going to bad stuff. Even though his wife was completely disappointed, second wife actually was completely disappointed by the way Ultimate Warrior Jim Helvig had the remarks on the websites and all that he had written. But she also believes that he actually is left upon that he's actually a very good person than that. That was a different person, as she says. But either way, it's kind of an argument that's there. You can argument it that, because the same person that they did, even though if you kill someone, it's a kill, man. If you have killed someone, if you have charged for that, you have charged for that. You, if you, even if you forgot, you would move on, but you have that back in the memory that you had done that. So I mean, I would not be uh, I would not be kind of uh, sympathizing Ultimate Warrior. What he did was very wrong, but what he did in his wrestling career was good as well, and he can do. And one of the greatest characters that WWE put upon, and the character that he played upon, and the matching level of the with that Hulk Hogan character, he was only one. Anyone, if you have seen, no, anyone, no. So he has that fair share of contribution in that wrestling business as well. So they actually have that Hall of Fame first ceremony, where the normal stuff is happening. He was being inducted with his two kids, and he actually cuts and his promo. And after that, some or the other time, he actually came to Raw to cut a promo, just to just a display of Ultimate Warrior. So that was good as well, good moments that we had seen. And after few days, he passed away. And that was it. And the Hall of Fame ceremony, Hulk Hogan was also there. And Hulk Hogan said, "I'm very sorry, guy, man. Whatever I did." Vince McMahon also said, "Whatever I did, I just apologize for that." And they actually were reconciled at that time. And after few days after that Raw appearance, he was passed away. So that was it. And that was it. He passed at the age of 54, and that's not age for dying. Also, so much life that he had left to enjoy, and all with his second wife and with his kids. And now it is 7 years that Jim Helvig, aka the Ultimate Warrior, has passed away. And I like these matches in 89, 1991 that he had with Hulk Hogan as well. And he just bring about so much intensity, passion, and excitement that no one had ever put upon. I would say not even Hulk Hogan, because not Hulk Hogan was not kind of that type of guy. The closest I would say was Sting, but Sting was not in the WWF. He was doing in the NWA, WCW stuff that he was there. So often fans actually compare, if we had Sting versus Ultimate Warrior, that painted gimmick match. Uh, and yesteryears that would have been great. Even yeah, that's one of the dream matches that we didn't got actually, that we just like Undertaker versus Sting, I would say. So some emotional moments were also there for what some, he actually had portrayed one of the best character, one of the greatest character, and that was it. We still today lived upon his legacy by celebrating his honor each and every year on the Hall of Fame ceremony by giving the Warrior Award to ones who had done accomplished and had done good things, social philanthropic stuff, so very good things in his in the social in the social environment. So that's being carried on over. So their daughters, they have two daughters, Indiana and one more name, I don't know. Yeah, Indiana and Madigan actually. So Indiana is into the ballet dancer or something, but Madigan is into the kickboxing that he she wanted to. And I am very I'm very actually thinking about, like, felt like that they would be, maybe they would be stepping into their father's footsteps. Father would be very proud. So rest in peace, Ultimate Warrior, the legend. So I close upon that. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those good stuff. And I would be putting upon the next version of this Ultimate Warrior, the Dark Side of the Ring version. We're pretty much excited about that as well. So be sure to hit the notification bell icon as well, so that you get my notification whenever I upload a new video, new podcast. So apart from the biographies, I also do reviews of pretty much all wrestling shows. And the other I also happen to begin a new series which focus on the Mid Atlantic Championship wrestling scene in from 1981. So I put upon that weekly. So be sure to subscribe for all the wrestling content that you want. I have got you covered. So that's it, man. Be safe, stay energetic, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.